Hi, I'm Eddie Irvin, and I'm an app architect. And today we're talking about how to use a metaphor of following the water flow to be able to really figure out what you need to build in your app. Now, when we were kids, we would play in the stream, right? We even sometimes make new streams, or if you're at the beach and you've poured a bunch of water, you can kind of make the paths of the water go where you want it to go. You're digging, kind of digging the stream as it goes along. And the way that I think about apps and designing apps and kind of thinking through apps is doing that same sort of thing, but as the user moving through the perfectly designed app. So what I mean is as you go into your imagination and you pretend you are the perfect user using this thing, where it's already completed, it's already awesome, it's already perfect. You basically imagine the user going from page to page to page. So it's no different than if the user themselves actually just goes in and presses the thing and does the thing, but you're doing it before you even build the app in your imagination. So you start where the user starts. Okay, that they come to the page, they click login, then what do they see? Right? So right away, now there's a page with a ton of different information, a ton of different elements, lots of different ingredients, and by then just imagining that page and then going through each individual element and writing all that down, you are now way farther ahead. Now this may seem obvious, and to some it will be obvious, but to some it won't. And the idea is that as you're moving forward, you're trying to basically just get this vision out of your head. If you use that mechanism of just being the user in your imagination and using that finalized, completed app, and then when you get to a new page, you then kind of stop, you pause that vision, and then you just go all the way through the page from the top to the bottom, and you start writing out every individual thing. If you see a menu at the top, then you list every single thing on the menu. If you see an icon, if you see a profile, if you see a search bar, if you see whatever else, then you write it down. Now, some of the time, you may not be able to do that. Or as you're kind of going through the page, you kind of have a few things that you know that you want there, but maybe you're not thinking about all the different things on the page. And that's okay too. The idea is to get as much of your vision out of your head into separate elements into a spreadsheet so that as you're working on it, you can then refine and expand those ideas, or you can basically lock them down and say, I don't need any change. On this page, I need this thing. And so what happens as you go through and you start imagining all these different scenarios, the user has to do this, the user has to do that. You're imagining this whole list of the user getting to success. And as you are focused on the user getting to success, each separate thing that they do, always starting from login, or they've got to get into the site somehow. And then they've got, click on something or go from one page to another thing. You're always starting from that beginning point, and you're always going to success. And as you go through that flow, as the water flows through this thing, as you're kind of creating your own channel and and letting that water flow through, and every single page you get to, you stop and pause and then just say, what's on this page? What do I see? Or at the bare minimum, what does this page need to do? And as you move through it, you'll start to hit the same spots twice. And this is really interesting because you're not discovering it for the first time. You are not just, for the first time, seeing this thing and going, okay, let me just list everything out. You're seeing it now for the second time, third time, fifth time. And now either your vision expands or it doesn't. Either your vision gets bigger and you go, oh, I could also add that other thing, or oh, I could do a filter on it, or oh, I could. If you're getting new ideas, then that's all good. But at a certain point, you stop getting new ideas. At a certain point, you have gone through it, you've iterated your vision so many times that you are not finding new things. You're not discovering new things. And so now we're at a really good place. We're at a really good place with that, with that first iteration of what the plan is, because not only have you gone through every part of your app thinking about how the user would go through and what the success would be, you are now having gone through it so many times that the vision is like almost like a rut. If you drive over the same thing, in mud, that rut just gets deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And the more you cut that rut, the more you're not going to change it later. The more you feel like you really understand what it is that you're doing because you arrive at the same conclusion every single time without adding new things. And then also, as you just clarify that, then when the developer sees that, they're really going to get a good picture of what you want because the vision hasn't changed. And even if they ask you to explain it to them again, there's not going to be anything new there. Now, of course, you can't think outside your own thoughts. So sometimes you want to engage a consultant or somebody else, somebody like me, as an app architect. That's the type of thing that I help people do, asking good questions, pulling the vision out, and really trying to help them, navigate around development, looking for efficiencies, and just basically validating the idea and making it a better idea overall. But if you start with the idea of just going through all those different, successes, what does the user have to get to? And then as you play that out in your mind, listing out on the pages what you see for the finished product that you imagine in your mind, you start with this huge amount of information that is precise. And that's a really big deal when it comes to hiring a developer. Because the input for a developer service is, I need you to build this. And if you give them nothing, then they're just going to have a bunch of questions. And if you give them this full plan, here's all the pages and all the elements on all the pages and how the functions should work and just everything that should be happening. Here are the user flows, how the user flows through the app, that water that we're talking about, the water going through the stream that you kind of cut through the app. One step to another step to another step to another step, that in a flow chart. What page to what page? What's happening? Who's going where? What are they clicking on? And then the third thing, which you may not be able to do if you're not technical, is a database structure. And that is basically like if you put a bowl or plate down in your kitchen on a shelf, you know where it's going to go because the shelf is there. And it's the same thing with data. When you put the data down, it has to go somewhere. So part of doing that, you're making a database structure. You're making a place for the data to be put down. And as you do that, the obvious, well, now you've got a place to put the data down. But the second part of it is you are very clearly communicating to the developer what you want, because not only are you explaining the pages and all the elements on the pages, which really that can be given to a UI UX and they can know exactly what they need to make. But with the database structure, you're now telling the developer how everything is interlinked and how everything is interwoven. If there's a user ID and that user ID needs access to something, and then inside of that has its own metadata, or it's a name, a description, or this and that, and then you have to give somebody else access, who's gonna be connected to the same account. So you have to have a page to be able to connect things, whatever it is. With the database structure, you're clarifying all of that work, and you're also handing the developer basically their building, their base building foundation. When I work with clients, I love to give them a database that not only has the structure, but also has some example data in it, so that when the developer starts, they literally bring in that file, and they already have that base set foundation. They can start coding on top of it immediately because they've already got that structure. So it saves a lot of time, and once you actually get into development, and before then, it's just such a clarification that, again, the rut is so deep that you know exactly what you're asking for. And I can't tell you how many horror stories I've heard of people saying, I wasted a ton of money in dev, I wasted a ton of time in dev, and I don't want to do that again. Most of the people that hire me are people that did it the first time and failed, and they don't want to make that same mistake again because they know how much can go wrong. It can be an expensive game of telephone in development where you say one thing and they do something else. And then it's this back and forth with the developer that's no fun at all. So I hope this was helpful to you. I will see you tomorrow, and good luck on building your app. Bye.